To properly conclude my travel series, I felt it important that I give you guys more steps on how I was able to go to 3 first world European countries on a budget. Given the interactions that you guys had with my business class experience video, I thought you guys liked that. So let me give the people what they want. As you would know from my vlogs, if you've watched them, if you haven't, what are you waiting for? I went to Portugal, where I was in Faro and Portimao. I also went to Greece, where I went to Santorini and Mykonos, and then finally concluded my trip in Italy, where I went to Verona, Venice, as well as Lake Como. How did I do this? Stay tuned to find out. I'll start off by saying that traveling, guys, is not mission impossible. You just need to be very, very realistic with yourself, first of all, as to what it is that you can and can't do. When you start thinking that way, then the possibilities are endless, right? So, without going into a lot of elaboration on that point, I will delve into the steps that you need to take into consideration, or that I took into consideration when traveling to 3 European countries on a budget. In the words of the great Nicki Minaj, to live doesn't mean you're alive. And for me, I truly believe that traveling gives you that sense of being alive. So, tip number 1, have a travel budget, guys. Have a travel budget. Now, if you don't have that, I don't understand how you think you're going to get from one country to the other. And this budget needs to be on top of your already existing savings budget. So if you don't have a savings budget, I would suggest you start right there. You need to save for rainy days. You need to save for some pleasure that you enjoy. And in this case, if it's travel, you will take from that bucket. So if you don't have a savings account, if you haven't started saving, I would suggest you start there. And this budget, in terms of travel, will be very separate from, your traditional savings budget. Tip number 2. There's a traditional African proverb that says, it takes a village. Look at me smirking as though I've said something profound. It takes a village to raise a child, Namhla, to raise a child. And let me tell you, even when traveling, it takes a village. It's so much easier in terms of cost when you travel with a +1, be that your partner, be that a friend. Ideally, it should be someone you know, but like sometimes 2 strangers can get along pretty well. Who knows? But have a travel partner. That way you can share costs. There's nothing worse than incurring costs on your own. And plus, I wouldn't advise solo traveling if it's your first time in a country, because oh my gosh, anything can happen. So you got to have a travel partner, somebody you can share the experience with, and most importantly, share the costs. In that way, you're able to have a lot more experiences, and you're able to save on accommodation, which is usually, for me, the last thing you should be worried about. I doubt you're there to stay inside a hotel. Tip number 3. To use a travel agent or to not use a travel agent? That is the question. I have had a very rough experience with travel agents. And so someone like me who has experienced it wouldn't recommend it. But if you are to go the travel agent route, because it is easier, especially as a first-time traveler, and you don't like the admin that comes with planning, your trip, then you can go for a travel agent. But please do your research when it comes to traveling with a travel agent. Make sure that it's a reputable travel agency. Read through, the testimonials from and referrals from other people, how they found the experience. Get them to give you a quote, what it includes, what it excludes. And I often found that what they regard as a 3-star is actually feels like a 1-star. So I don't know. It's a softer landing when you've booked accommodation that you thought looked a certain way yourself and then only find out it's not, then you can blame yourself. But it's worse when there's a travel agent that has guaranteed you a 3rd or 4 or 5-star experience and walk, it's not. So I would recommend you plan your travel yourself. There's flexibility in doing so. And like I said, you can always blame yourself. Yeah, it's a softer blow. Tip number 4, I think we're on number 4. Yeah, we are on number 4. Would be the type of accommodation that you live in or stay in will feed into the kind of experience that you have, depending on what your priorities are. I know I wouldn't want to leave my home and go stay in a hotel for 5 days or 6 days or however long I'm staying in that country and not have a tourist experience. I love dining and fine dining, for example, and I want to experience that in a foreign country. So for me personally, accommodation is not a priority. So I, not you necessarily, but I cut down on accommodation expenses, for example, the 3 stars or hotels, and I would much rather book an Airbnb where I go and do groceries and we cook. And what you pick 1 or 2 nights in a certain area where you can do fine dining, where you can book a gondola ride, for example, in Italy, and have a travel experience. You go to Venice City or whatever the case may be, where it's a tourist attraction, and you spend your money there and you have the experiences. But each to themselves. I mean, if you like sitting in a 5-star hotel instead of doing touristy things, that's on you. Just prioritize your needs accordingly and invest where the investment meets return for you. Yeah. Tip number 5, modes of transportation. So the beautiful thing about Europe is that each country is located in very close proximity next to the other. So for me, when it comes to tip number 5, it would be around transportation and choosing the correct mode of transportation depending on the kind of country that you are going to, which then feeds into your research again. So what I would give, looking back now, what I would give a tip to somebody that's going to Italy, especially in the outskirts, is to get a car. Get a car. I repeat, get a car. No, seriously, get a car. Otherwise, you walk and break your legs like I did. But whereas opposed to, more suburban areas within Europe, trains are the most efficient and cost-effective way. So there is some level of sacrifice. You don't always have to fly everywhere. You can use the train. The train systems, they are very effective. And that enables you to save some money, to have more experiences. And last but not least, tip number 6 is, especially if you're traveling with someone else, make sure that your travel itinerary accommodates both of your experiences in terms of what you want. That way you can both experience it at the same time, or one can either go to the museum and the other one can go shopping, because your priorities or your likes and dislikes are different. You don't always have to stick with each other. But it would be great if you guys had similarities or things in common that you could do together. It just makes the experience that much better, and you can have someone to take pictures of you if you are a shy person. But if you're like me, I ask complete strangers to take videos of me all the time. So yeah, that would be my last tip. Enjoy it. Create an itinerary that really meets your needs, so that when you come back, you are so excited and you're already starting to plan for the next one. Yeah, and I hope what I've just shared with you helps, guys. All the best with your next trip. If you loved this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'd appreciate some of your comments down below. And stay tuned to my next video, especially if you're a music lover, because that is what it will be about. Until next time.